Hold on. Sorry. Pete's f***ing me up. I'll be right back.
Peter! Pete is Brent's dog, and I'm not gonna edit this episode, so you're gonna hear all of that. Hello, everybody. I'm Cody Troyer.
And I'm Brent Gaisford.
And we are the Hugonauts, here to review and discuss with you the best sci-fi novels of all time. This week, we're talking about Dmitri Glukhovsky's Metro 2033, which was our third book club book as voted on by our Discord. And next week,
we're going to do a rundown of the listenership's favorite sci-fi books of all time. There's a poll live on the Discord. We'll also put a link in the episode notes. You fill in your top 10 sci-fi books. We'll do some, we'll collate that. And then we'll tell you the best stuff. We'll find some hidden gems. We'll see that you all like Dune more than we do. It's going to be great.
And thanks to Garland Greaves or Gordon for putting that together for us, collated by his spreadsheet mastery.
Yes. Okay.
Should we talk about Metro 2033? Yes. Tell us what happens, please.
Okay. So there's a nuclear war, and it's set in Moscow. Moscow has like one of the deepest metro systems in the world. This is real world. That's true. And they're all designed as fallout shelters. And so everything's ruined, but there's a bunch of people living in the metro stations. And our hero, Artyom, has to go on a quest where he walks around quite a bit inside the metro. We'll talk more about it. That's kind of what happens.
It's good. Also, it is 544 pages or 20 hours on audiobook, and it was published in 2002.
Yes. So what did you think?
Shall we do it? Okay. I guess I'll go first. I feel like I should lift us up, but maybe I'll start lifting. 4 out of 5 for me. I thought the ending brought it up a whole notch. It's kind of just a gloomy and very felt setting, this metro, and it's like nothing else I've ever read. And the setting is really kind of the reason to be here. Really, the setting is the book.
I also like the setting, but I'm going to go ahead and give this a 2 out of 5, which I think is the lowest rating I've given to a book that we've ever reviewed on the show. It's extraordinarily long and feels very repetitive. Here's how I'm going to summarize this. So they made a video game series based on this book, and the video games are quite good. But what's weird is, like, I feel like this book is the novel. Well, okay, we'll talk about that too. But I feel like this book is a novelization of a video game rather than like a book. And so it just doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Let's add some context for the listeners who have not read Metro 2033 first, and then we'll get into that because that is a big talking point. But this entire world is years after some sort of nuclear fallout, and it's the societies and the overall society and the small little break off governments and factions within the metro system that have grown.
Yeah, so there's like traders at every station, and the currency is bullets, and you buy food with bullets, and then like everybody, they have like everybody's like grows fungus and pigs, and then trades for that, and there's some communists who have like a whole line of communism, and there's some like capitalists with a ring system, and there's some religious guys over there, and there's some Christian religious guys. There's some new types of religions. There's the Hansa, which is like a trade union ring, like old. What's the Italian city? Is it Venice? Venice is one of them. They were competing with Genoa.
Yeah, what I forget what that's called, but
city-states.
City-state. So there's lots of like ideologies represented within the societies of the metro. And so that's where our tale takes place and where our hero Artyom has to journey.
Yeah, I really like the world. It's definitely the best part. It was felt very interesting to explore and check out each station. Each station has a gimmick. I'll say uncharitably. Which is like their like either like government or religious thing that they do in that station. And it's all like it's all very spooky between the stations. There's a lot of like scary mind powers that like try to kill you in between.
The religious texts of the Hansa are The Wealth of Nations and How to Win Friends and Influence People.
I loved that.
So
also,
great.
Side note, that book is really good. Yeah. I love Dale Carnegie. Anyway.
Yeah. So, but as you've alluded to a couple times, maybe just the once, I forget, but the story is kind of repetitive. It takes place in these blocks, which is why you, I think that it sounds like that it feels like the novelization of a video game. It's because it's Artyom's journey as he's trying to save his station from the Dark Ones and the entire metro from the Dark Ones, who are these mysterious bad guys that live above ground. Who are slowly infiltrating through cracks.
Because Artyom left the door open like an idiot.
Because he left the door open when he was a kid. And so it's this journey, a lot of fetch questing of him going through the metro, trying to get to various stations and meet people and deliver messages.
Yes, and the way they tell him what he has to do next is so fetch questy. That's the perfect description. Like he shows up somewhere and then they're just like, oh yeah, but you have to go over there. And he's like, why? And they're like, no, I have to go. You just have to go there to find out.
Well, and it's like his mission is to deliver a message. And then someone else is like, well, now you got to escape this crate. And then you're going to have to deliver this thing for me so I can get you through the communist station so you can get closer to the station you're supposed to go to deliver the message. It's very, and I will be, how about I be charitable on the other side of it? It's Odyssey-esque. Odyssean.
Oh, wow. That is charitable. Yeah, but that's true. Yeah. That's also true.
Classic hero's journey, just going through a bunch of different adventures with different monsters and people types.
That? The Odyssey is about 200 pages long.
Right.
This book is like 600 pages long.
Yes. However, this isn't written as an epic poem, so it's got that going for it as far as tractability. I will say, this is an interesting point to talk about this. You read the words from the page, correct? You read the print. That's what I'm looking for.
That is true, yes.
I listened to it. And while it was a long listen, I can't help but feel like this is the type of book where that experience makes a huge difference. Because I liked it and I didn't mind the kind of episodic journeying through the metro because it was a cool place. And even if I was like pruning my tree in the warm sun, I still felt like I was in the damp, cold Moscow metro. I feel like Glukhovsky nailed that.
He did get the feel.
And so it really transported me. And I liked each of the adventures and learning about how the metro worked. It was a really interesting, like, world building novel to me. And I feel like it might be because I could do other stuff at the same time and like enjoy it. I didn't have to sit down and like, I just spent 2 hours reading blah, blah, blah. What do you think?
I think that's true. I also think the edition that I got was like a very bad translation. I don't know how you felt about your audiobook.
Great. I liked it. I thought it was well written.
Yeah, mine was really bad. So I have a few particular, this is the first thing I've ever read where I was like, oh, now I understand why good translation is important. So there's a couple like concrete examples I can give that like sort of just speak to it. But there's a character who, Andre, I think, but they changed the spelling of the name, like the way they translated it into English partway through. And it was like, oh, that's extremely distracting. And the other thing is there's a lot of gun talk in the book. Like the currency is literally bullets. And he's like constantly getting new guns. That's also very video game-esque. But in the book, in the translation that I had, just blanket calls everything a machine gun. And there was like one scene where they stopped doing that and they're like, oh, and this is an AK-47 and that's like I'm forgetting the name of the World War II machine gun that the Soviet Union had that I know from playing video games. Anyway, they like use the names. They're like, oh, I can differentiate between these things. And then they switch to calling it a machine gun and a light machine gun. And it's just like extremely bad, undifferentiated language, like constantly. It made it very, just made it feel way less engrossing and like,
now that's,
there's like less flavor in it.
Now that's weird. I don't know how to help listeners here other than to say the Audible version was great. And even just the machine gun thing, I thought there was attention to like how long the stock was and like what the weights of the different guns and how he was like, he felt naked when he lost a gun, and you could feel that the like I don't have any guns and ammo now because they had to take it at the checkpoint at that station. But now he's got this new gun that's lighter and better. And that feels totally video gamey now that I sound out loud, but I thought it was well done actually. So I'm wondering, and more people on the Discord had said this when we did our book club chat, but that, bad translation, good translation could be a big factor here. So I only know about the Audible version. I don't know where to point people for the good.
And I don't actually know how to warn anyone off mine. Like my copy, I should have brought the physical book so I could show people. It's the weirdest book I've ever picked up. When I started reading it, actually, I thought, like I just opened the book and literally like the first page, like on the front of the first page was just like a block of text. And I was like, oh, weird. Is this like one of those weird things where it's like a teaser of another book at the beginning that they're trying to sell me? And then I like flipped a few pages and I was like, oh, there are no title pages or publication information. This is just the start of the book. And then at the end, same thing. So I don't know who translated it. I don't know who published it. I don't know. It's super weird.
Well, also, it was self-published and it was on his website. It had like 500,000 downloads in 8 years, something like that. It was a huge self-pub success. It might have just been a copy that was like bootleg printed. There might be a lot of like bootlegs out there.
That's possible. I would assume the Los Angeles Public Library would get a legit edition, but my edition did not look legit.
If it doesn't have any title pages, then I don't know. It was printed in the Metro from the story.
Yeah, exactly.
On fungi paper. Someone on Discord ordered the English version and then got it, and we figured out it was in Turkish.
Is that
right?
Yeah, they got it. Yeah, they got it in Turkish.
So there you
actually,
go.
I looked at getting it on audiobook, and the LA library had audiobook versions in German and like a Central European language, no Spanish, no English, which like in the LA Public Library is like what anyway. Yeah.
You're right. Who's reading that? There's one more thing I really wanted to talk about, which is I love the feel of the book. We talked about, I feel like you agree still that it does bring you in. Like Glukhovsky, at least you would agree, succeeded in creating a world that feels like what it's supposed to.
Yes, I agree. It took a little minute to get into it. At the beginning, there's like a lot of storytelling, but yeah, I quite liked the first like 3 or 4 tunnel journeys. I was quite into it. Yeah.
Cool. And what I like about it is how he constantly compares how the old Metro used to work. Artyom wasn't really alive then, but has vague memories and just knows through stories, like instead of this harrowing journey through a million borders with phantasms chasing him and driving men mad and other men capturing him, there's that people used to just like get on a train and ride it for 30 minutes. And I love that in post-apocalyptic fiction because it's something I think about all the time. Like if I'm on a plane, I think about, oh man, another minute on this plane. If this plane has to emergency land and the world ends and we're the road suddenly, every minute we get on this flight is like a week of walk time that I'm cutting off if I need to get back to Denver or wherever I'm going. Or like driving around, just thinking about, driving from Denver to Boulder, which is a 30-minute drive, but could be like a 2-day trip. I love thinking about that stuff. So that hit me hard in Metro.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, there's like ghost trains that like barrel through and he's like, oh, so cool. Ghost train. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a little more,
also, is this book like a sci-fi book? This book is kind of a horror book.
Yeah.
it's like none of it is like there's not like supposed to be a scientific backing to like any really of what's happening.
No, I mean there's like the purported like the radioactive made things evolve weirdly, but they're like monsters that evolved quickly. It's not really what radioactive isotopes do.
No, and then like all the psychological stuff in the tunnels, is like very like there's several times where he's like, oh yeah, it's because of ghosts. It's like, all right, well, I mean, I'm into it. I'm buying into the ghosts. It feels spooky, but it's anyway. So just
I guess
like sort of, it's not cosmic horror. It's like underground horror, regular horror. Anyway.
We're not horror people. I'm sorry, we're messing up your subgenres. I know horror subgenres are like metal subgenres. Like there's a lot of them, and you got to be very accurate. And we're not going to do that. So apologies. But yeah, it's a little sci-fi in the post-apocalyptic nature, I guess. Okay. Let's move on.
We can talk about the video games post spoilers.
You mean talk about it pre spoilers? You're saying right now?
Yeah, we can, because I think we're like running out of pre spoilers stuff. Right?
You said post.
Oh, I meant pre. Yeah,
I got
classic,
you. Okay, cool.
Classic. So I got the Nintendo Switch port of Metro Last Light, or I'm forgetting actually the name of the first video game that they made. But unfortunately, that Switch port is like extremely dark, and as you might expect, a lot of the game takes place in underground tunnels, and like I literally could not see anything. It was just like the whole screen would be black, and I'd be trying to be in a firefight fighting dark ones in a perfectly black tunnel, and it was like it just became very clear like it wasn't. I would turn like the brightness all the way up on the TV, and like still just couldn't see a thing. And I was like, okay, well, this is not gonna work. So that was a bummer.
That makes sense. I buy that. I played it on PS, and the light was fine, but I quit half or 3/4 the way through because I couldn't find my way out of a room. I just didn't think it was. It's the remaster, but it came out in 2010, and it's just not. It's a first person shooter narrative game, and even then there were better options, which you'll find in our surprise recommendation section. I thought it was kind of basic.
They made an interesting choice. Also, Artyom the main character, like he never speaks.
Yeah,
which is confusing. I never really get that choice in any video game, and it feels especially wrong in this one, where Artyom is like, at least in the books, like I don't know, Artyom's got a lot to say, and like
characters,
basically everything happening is like his train of thought. It's just weird, very weird to have like none of that.
I think I see what they're trying to go for. They're trying to go for the like you're the character thing, rather than inserting Artyom as like a protagonist. Even though the name is Artyom, it feels. I think they're going for that feel, but I think that it misses because Artyom's still the protagonist. Like you're still playing as Artyom. You're not playing as like a nameless, But there were better. I didn't love the game.
For sure.
It was fine. Speaking of Artyom, he's kind of the main. He's what it's all about. The youth who's there to save the world. We're back to the book now. I see you looking around, and you're like, what's going on?
No, I'm with you. I'm just trying to think about how much I can do here without spoilers.
Yeah.
He is the main thing because everyone else is 100% expendable, like it's a video game.
Which it's like, yeah, it does feel like that. Like you said, you had in your notes about how are they killing so many people? How are there still people alive down here? It does have that feel a little bit.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. In the space of this, like 2 weeks that the book takes place in, like thousands of people die, and it's like, how many people are living in this dang metro station? Like, anyway,
I did think the same thing, because that's one of my pet peeves with action movies. They'll like a fantasy medieval war epic or something, and there's like 100 guys in a battle, and then there's like 100 guys at the end of the battle, but you saw like 6,000 guys getting killed. Like you think that a director at some point
Season
would just
8 of
think
Game of
about the
Thrones.
numbers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Just
Yeah,
think about the numbers and make it match
endlessly
up.
replenishing Dothraki army. Yeah,
it's all VFX, buddy. Just think about it. Other characters. Speaking of other characters, this novel, what does it catastrophically fail?
Where are you going? Oh, the Bechdel test. There's I think one woman who speaks.
There's one woman who speaks, the mom of the kid.
The mom of the kid,
barely
and
in it.
She is being unhinged and yelling at her husband. That's the one line that a woman gets in the book. So that's not that good. It's like reading a sci-fi book from the 50s where it's like there's just like no women appear in the book at all.
An Asimov rip, yeah.
Exactly.
There are, however, some awesome side characters. All men, but awesome side characters.
I liked Khan. Yeah, he says he's the reincarnation of Genghis Khan, and then like it seems like he is, in fact, the reincarnation of Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
He knows like all kinds of crazy stuff. He's like a philosopher, warrior. He's awesome. Yeah.
And kind of like dips in and out. All the side characters dip in and out, or some stuff happens to them. But there's Khan. They're the stalkers. Hello, Roadside Picnic, who go up topside to scavenge things and bring them back down. And then there's Bourbon. They're a bunch of like awesome people that Artyom meets on the way, which is why I would compare it to the hero's journey in that regard. You're just like, he's just picking up and dropping all these fun, weird characters on the way. And the overarching message of the novel is really just adherence to doctrine is bad, pretty classic. But I think he does well. It's a little bit hammer to nail. He does a pretty good job of it, Glukhovsky.
Yeah, basically he just like shows up at a station, and the station has like some shtick / doctrine that they love, and then you like see why that's bad, and then you do that again. Yeah.
And there's some new stuff that's created in the world, which is the most fun to me, rather than just like the rehash of like, oh, these are the Nazis and these are the communists. But one more, there's also one more gripe that both of us had, which was the nutrition just doesn't make any sense. I couldn't.
Oh yeah,
that was the only
mushrooms.
World building.
Yeah. There's all these people surviving, and the way the economy is based on mushrooms. So they grow mushrooms, and the way they feed the mushrooms is with their poop. But that does not work. Not even close.
Right. And then they feed that to the pigs, and they eat pig and mushrooms, and that's it. I think there's a mention of like trading multivitamins, but how long did those last?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, and just like mushrooms they just have like no energy is entering this system. Right. Which would not work. But anyway, yeah, they did have a lot of interesting mushroom products. They had the mushroom tea that like their whole little station survived on the mushroom tea. I've never had mushroom tea, but I believe you can have a good one. There's some sweet shrooms out there. But yeah, it was just funny. Yeah. Also, where were the bullets coming from? They shot so many bullets, and they were just handing them out as currency. And anyway, they must have had a bullet factory somewhere with the mushroom, with the magic mushrooms.
Yeah. So before we go on to recommendations and post spoilers, I just want to say I did give it a 4. Let me just quick bullet for those listening. It's science fiction enough. The world building is really cool, and there's a lot of cool adventures that Artyom has along the way. A lot of exciting moments. I loved the monsters and some of the religions that Glukhovsky invented for the people of the deep and why he invented them. There's certain chapters that are great that we'll talk about in post spoilers. And the ending is phenomenal. So just, after a lot of pooping into the mushroom farm that we just did, I just wanted to say the things that I really liked about it, and thank Zeth from the Discord for putting it forward as his rec to be voted on, because I enjoyed reading it.
For sure. So shall we do some similars?
We couldn't think of any similar books. I mean, there's some there's other post-apocalyptic stuff. There's other stuff that happens underground. None of it quite matches up, which is another argument for reading this book. It's uniqueness, but similar media. Do you want to start with any?
Yeah. No. Can you start?
Sure. I'll go ahead. Last of Us and BioShock, the first BioShock. BioShock 2007, Last of Us 2013. So they're 3 years on the edge of the Metro 2033 video game, and they're both better versions of the same thing. Survival horror in Last of Us that's also a wildly compelling narrative. I'm sure most of you played it. And then BioShock, which is horror, not as much survival, but super psychologically scary, happens in the Ayn Randian Atlantis that has gone to hell, which is similar to Metro 2033 in feel, and also just has one of the best video game stories ever. So that's what I thought of for recommendations.
For sure. Yeah, I kind of don't have any. I don't know. Dune has worms. There's some big worms in this, so that's related.
Notes from Underground's by a Russian man, and half of it happens underground.
Extraordinarily good book. I definitely think everyone should read that. I don't know about this one. Yeah. I don't know. As we were trying to look other places on what do people on the internet say is related, and it's it's basically a bunch of Eastern European and Russian genre fiction, which I don't know. I haven't read the Witcher books. I love The Witcher 3. Oh, The Witcher 3. You should. This sick video game. Unrelated. So sick though. Based on
video
a
game
Polish
book, Netflix series.
What else? Oh, it was Stanislaw Lem, and it's that's not correct at all. They're just geographically close, but that's not even
the authors are
one bit,
sort
right?
of geographically close. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Roadside Picnic, same thing. It's the Strugatskys, extremely similar writers. And it's that's not right at all.
Well, anyway. because Glukhovsky used so much Roadside Picnic in it.
Anyway, Roadside Picnic is sick. You should read that. Not because it's like this though. Anyway. Yeah.
Okay, should we talk about what happens in the rest of the book? Shall we post-spoil?
Yeah, let's spoil some stuff.
Okay, what happens?
So, okay, I'm going to skip the general wandering around. There's an enormous amount of that.
Yeah.
Actually important things that happen. So, one that I'll just sort of throw this out there, but one of the random stations he goes to is by far my favorite because it sort of all this stuff where it feels like a video game, it sort of breaks the fourth wall and talks about that. He has these two old men who are talking about how he is the protagonist and therefore will be protected, but all the people around him will die. And it's just a very interesting setup. So we'll talk about that. All that to say though, so he finds a stalker, this guy Nelnik, who is oh yeah, the Dark Ones are a very serious problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some missiles from the old world, and we're going to shoot them at where the Dark Ones are living, and we're going to destroy them above ground. Yeah, the botanical gardens.
Yes.
And so they have to go through some even more abandoned than usual tunnels to get there, but they do get there. They shoot off the rockets, and then just before they destroy the Dark Ones, Artyom gets this vision, which you love, and so I'll let you talk about the very end.
Oh, well, he gets a vision from the Dark Ones that are some sort of communique that's we have evolved. The planet, has evolved us alongside all these monsters to be a hive mind of humans as humans' next evolutionary leap, to bridge the ones who survived and us and move humanity forward. And we've been trying to contact you. That's why you've been having these dreams and visions. To be our liaison to the old humans and come together as one. And he gets that right as the missiles hit and they all die. And it's just so gutting. That the mission of this whole book, there's finally a spark of hope in this just drippy, soggy world. And it's extinguished by the old humans' violence immediately. And I think in the later books, I've not read them, but there's some that kind of comes back, and there's some success. And Artyom
hold on. Can I ask you a question on this? I want to test your love of this book.
There's a lady in the
Are you gonna read any more of the books in this series?
I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty self-contained. I don't see a reason to go on. But I love that. I love the point it made at the end.
Yeah, I was kind of honestly, I was like too jaded for that to like hit me. And the other thing that's interesting is like he's getting all these visions along the way, and we're sort of told the Dark Ones are manipulative. Anyway, in my like cynical take here is like, were they just like trying to, send some kind of message to like take over his mind so that they will like let them take over, which we've heard is their tactic. So this is my counterfactual, like, ooh, what if we really did need to blow them up?
And I think that's an interesting point. It's a point that didn't enter my mind whatsoever. I just took the text at face value. I think partially because that's how I took it, and also partially because all of the dreams he's having along the way and all the like that kind of stuff. I hate that. I hate that in every form of media fiction. I hate dream stuff. And I just completely glazed over it because I despise it. So I didn't have that feeling at all.
I actually agree with that. Yeah, I was definitely skimming that pretty heavily, especially because it was the same dream over and over. It's like, God damn, dude, it was really boring.
Surely someone's done it well somewhere, or someone is yet to do it well, and I'll be impressed. But stay out of dreamland. It's already fiction. You could say whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, for sure.
You're making monsters up.
Yeah.
We don't need
there was a really cool sequence above ground. They go into what I assume, I did a bunch of Googling during this book because it's all based on real metro stations. One I did not check. They go above ground at one point into like a huge library near the Kremlin.
Lenin Library.
I assume is a real place.
Yeah, the Lenin Library.
The what? Oh, the Lenin Library. Yeah. I heard London, and I was like, I don't think it's the London Library. Anyway.
Yep. You don't remember they transgress to where it's the tube instead of the metro.
But in that there's like a really good, it's probably 2 or 3 chapters with these like creepy librarians above ground, which they call librarians, but really they're just monsters.
They're like scurry, fast, quick monsters.
Yeah, and they're like trying to find a secret book that it doesn't seem like it exists. Anyway, it was just like it was just some good horror stuff happening there for sure. It was fun.
Oh yeah, I loved all the monsters. And I also loved the let's talk about our two favorite. We each had like one particularly favorite moment from the book. What was yours?
I hinted in the summary. Yeah, so mine is Polyanka Station, which is pretty early in the book, which is why I felt okay talking about it a little bit earlier. But anyway, it's he meets these 2 old men. He gets into a station, and it's like the first one where it's like, oh, it's not creepy at all, but it's like it's weird that it's abandoned, but it's not creepy, and it's just 2 old men sitting around. They're actually burning books to like make heat, which is sort of interesting. And telling stories about the old days. But then they sort of get into this thing where they're talking about how like, oh, Artyom, like we think you're something, you're on this quest, you're trying to like solve this thing, but that's really kind of a curse because all the people around you will be destroyed. And it becomes very like meta. And it's about like, oh, well, you're the protagonist, so you can't be hurt. But that's actually, there's like a downside to that because all the people around you will die. And then that is what happens over the course of the rest of the book. And he keeps thinking back to that, and that, he sort of like has other people who tell him like, oh, Polyanka Station, that's where like prophecies are made. And it was just an interesting, it was like an interesting thought experiment. Like, what would it be like to be told you're the hero of a hero's journey? And it's like, oh, it's not good news, even though it means you'll succeed in your quest. Like, it's always super bad for all the people around the hero. I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, and ultimately he succeeds in his quest and extinguishes hope for humanity.
Yeah, it didn't go well.
Yeah. So it all doesn't work out.
Yeah, this book is so Russian. Oh my God, it's just so bleak and just like everything's pointless, and everybody loves doing murders. Anyway, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, which I thought was cool, unique experience. My favorite section of the book was towards the end. He gets captured by a religious sect that lives in one station, and it's an old man who's the priest of this religion, which it turns out he's invented, that is about revering the great worm, which is a tunnel analogy. But it's that the world started. Its followers are young people who don't remember the previous world, and the story is that the great worm burrowed tunnels through the earth and created heavens and earth and everything, and created humans to be in the tunnel. And the old man admits that he invented the religion to get young people to hate the old world and the old world ways and technology, and to use it as a force to do away with the violence of previous humans, because he hated it so much. And you really feel his motive, and it totally makes sense. And the worm religion's kind of cool that he's created.
The great worm.
And Artyom kind of sees one. You're not sure if it's like he's imagining it or it's like one of those ghost trains or whatever, but he opens a door when they're leaving the station, and he's like, I saw a great worm in there.
I kept thinking that we were going to like see a tunnel boring machine,
yeah,
and that was going to be the great worm, but that didn't happen. They meant worms.
Yeah. That happened a lot in this novel. I thought there was going to be some sort of like one of the like a True Detective season 1 kind of everything's supernatural. No, it's not.
So good. We should have put that in the recommendation section.
Well, here it is. It's so recommended good. Now. Yeah, watch it. It's great.
And then stop. Don't watch any other seasons.
Yeah, right. But that kind of like, is this supernatural? No, it's not. Here's why. But it's just supernatural. So there's that. But overall, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the read. I thought it was like nothing I've ever experienced before, and I'll remember parts of it and think about it, especially the ending.
Yeah, for sure. I'm happy I read it. This is like the deal with book clubs. You get exposed to something new. Sometimes you love it. Sometimes you don't. That's okay. I'm so glad I did it, and yeah, had fun along the way. And I have so much more respect for translation as an art now. I've never read a bad translation before. Now I really have, and I'm like, oh, I understand how important it is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, let us know what your favorite station or moment was, and
fill out the survey. Tell us about your favorite books. We'll put the link in the episode. Tell us about your favorite books, and then we'll go through the whole list. I know we're gonna discover some stuff that we haven't read yet. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, the top sci-fi books of all time by you, the audience.
Until then.
See ya.
Ugh.